I love you.
Yo, baby! What's happening, man? Welcome back. I'm excited about this one, man. We got a late night episode talking some Bulls. If you see me looking down really quickly, just making sure we got all of our social medias up. We're live everywhere. If you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you may be watching it on, appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is another episode of Mike on the Mic tonight. We got some Bulls talk, baby. We got some Bulls talk that I'm actually excited about for the first time in what feels like forever, but has really only been 20 games. The Bulls had an outstanding performance. I'm talking about a win for the ages. This was a win that I didn't see coming. I even had, Bucks money line, $50 on the game. Every single piece of my parlay hit. Shout out to my boy Coop. We were at the game together. I just came out with an amazing piece at Chicago State of Mind. You can check that out on Substack. You can check that out all the time. Cubs and Bulls articles 24/7. But with that being said, man, getting right into it, the Chicago Bulls win against Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard in the Milwaukee Bucks in overtime, 120-113. It was an amazing performance all around, and it was just a game that I was just excited to be at. I mean, this was a presence that everybody felt. Man, I just can't wait to see Dame. I have him right here. The signed Damian Lillard shoes that I got way back at the All-Star game in 2019, 2020. So Dame's always been one of those guys that I love personally watching. He's somebody that you grow up watching and you say, man, like if he was just in a better situation, things would be different. And throughout the first 20 games, things have not been much different for Damian Lillard. And this was a game that I was so excited to see. And we're going to break down the game and unpack it and everything. But first and foremost, I just want to talk about my first initial thoughts watching the game. It was crazy because I think I had Damian Lillard on the money line, or I had the Bucks on the money line, and I had Damian Lillard for 26.5 points. And I understand that he's averaging 26 points on the year, so like that was a stretch. But with Zach Lavine and DeMar DeRozan out and Alex Caruso being questionable prior to this bet being made, I'm definitely sitting here and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm decent. I think I'll be all right. And I think I'm in a situation where we can win. So I was excited about it. And then Damian Lillard, if I'm not mistaken, has 14 or 16 points at halftime. 3 more quarters of basketball are played after this, and he finishes with 18 points. 18 points. I mean, I was blown away. I was blown away by the absolute, I guess, just disappointment of Damian Lillard. I have no other words. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. And I don't know if there's an injury playing into a part of that. He looked like a decoy. If you remember Bucks Nets in the conference finals way back in 2021, I was actually at the game where James Harden just looked like an absolute decoy. He's just walking around, he's rolling around, and he's on the court, but we know he's not really there. He's not a part of the game plan. And that's kind of how Damian Lillard looked. I mean, he's being passive. He's not going into this game looking like an absolute scorer. He's not shooting threes. He's deferring to other guys that aren't Giannis, which is absolutely crazy. And then you look at a guy like Chris Middleton with 9 points on the night. And let's get into that. First of all, Giannis leads the team with 26, 5, and 14 in 39 minutes. Chris Middleton had 9, 3, and 3 and 27. Brook Lopez had 20, 0, and 4 and 39. Damian Lillard, 18, 13, and 5 in 43 minutes. So, he wasn't just a complete disappointment. 18 and 13 is still very productive, but from a scoring perspective, without legitimate defensive players on the Chicago Bulls to play 45 plus minutes a night, I mean, you expect better. Malik Beasley with 19, 3 and 3 and 41. Bobby Portis Jr., baby, welcome back to the United Center. He had a whopping 4, 2 and 9 in 31 minutes. Beecham Champ, pardon me if I butchered that name. Marjan had 7-0 and 3 and 22. Jackson Jr. had 4-1 and 1 and 12. Cameron Payne, welcome back to the United Center as well, but it's not as love as it is for Bobby Portis. 6-1 and 1 in 11 minutes for Cameron Payne. But let's talk about it, man, because we know DeMar DeRozan was out of this game with an ankle sprain that they were babying. It was a game time decision, and Zach Lavine, from what I'm understanding, was a sore foot, something just didn't feel right for Zach Lavine, quote unquote. But both of them were at the game. Both of them were in attendance. They looked very supportive of Patrick Williams. They looked very supportive of the entire Bulls fan base and the entirety of the team. So I like that they're still present and they're still there, even though we have an understanding that they're likely going to be dealt at some point before the end of the 2023 season. It's going to be exciting, though. Rumors came out this morning kind of talking about DeMar DeRozan and his favorites right now. From what is being reported, DeMar DeRozan is favoring the Miami Heat. No shock. So is everybody else. And the New York Knicks, which I don't like that fit personally for DeMar, especially under Tibbs. I don't think it's the best move. But yeah, man, it's definitely going to be interesting. I got a comment right here. I just want to address it. Somebody said, "What Bears jersey is in the background?" That's Richard Dent, my boy. That's Richard Dent, one of my favorites. But with that being said, getting into the rest of the game and talking about what the Bulls, pardon me, were able to do. It was just so great to see an actual identity from this team, an actual identity of a Billy Donovan-led offense. We trade for Nikola Vucevic in 2020, and he's an all-star in Orlando. They run the offense through him and Aaron Gordon, and at the time, you look at a guy like Nikola Vucevic and say, this can be huge for them moving forward. And we didn't really see that throughout the last 3 years of him in Chicago. And a big part of why that is, I feel like, is because of the aggressiveness in the paint of guys like DeMar DeRozan and Zach Lavine. It's very clogged up, especially on top of that, a young Patrick Williams who's just lost in the offense. He can't develop if you got guys that are just so ball dominant and trying to win. That's just the reality of the situation. So I loved what we saw from a young Bulls team. This was exactly what we needed. Nikola Vucevic was the offense. He led the team in points, 29 and 10 on the day. I loved it. I was here for it. I was absolutely obsessed with what we saw. Let's break that down and let's have a real conversation really quick. If you see me looking at the camera, obviously, I'm looking at the box score. Patrick Williams had 12, 1 and 2 in 36 minutes. He had 8 points until the very end of the game where he had multiple dunks, one on Giannis Antetokounmpo where he looked pissed. I mean, I loved what we saw from Patrick Williams throughout the last 4 or 5 games. He's averaging about 15 points per game. So you just love to see that. You love to see that from him. Alex Caruso, baby. I loved it. Loved what we saw. 29 minutes, 11 points, kept Damian Lillard at bay offensively, 5 assists, 1 rebound. And the game-tying 3 to send it to overtime. You'd love to see it. I was getting into an argument with this Bucks fan who was heckling us the entire night. And he starts putting on his jacket, baby. He starts putting on his jacket, his beanie with the ball on it. Everything says Bucks. Him and his boys just sitting there laughing it up. Here comes Caruso. Bang, banger, right off the top of the key. I grab this man by his shoulder. I turn over to him. He's sitting in front of me. I go, hey, brother. I go, we got ball left, baby. We got ball left. Take that jacket off right now. And some other words were said as well. But we had a great conversation after that. We were friendly banter. But we were having a blast. We were having an absolute blast, and I loved it. Nikola Vucevic in 40 minutes had 29, 6, and 10. You'll love to see that from him. I mean, absolutely dominant. And I actually did just write an article on Chicago State of Mind the other day talking about, if the Chicago Bulls do move on from DeMar DeRozan and Zach Lavine, that's when I think you're going to start to see the stats just not, we're not going to say inflation because of the lack of stars on the team, but you're going to see them rise because he's going to get more opportunities to score every single night. He's going to be the number one option like he was in Orlando. And I think you're going to start to see a much better Nikola Vucevic. And that contract that we gave him on top of that is going to look 10 times better when he starts to actually have performances like this on almost a nightly basis. Kobe White, former number 7 overall pick, a guy who just hasn't really he's developed well, but has also, had bumpy roads. And an amazing performance, a team leading 45 minutes, 23, 7, and 4, with multiple big time threes in this game, dishing the ball out. I loved what we saw from him. Ayo Dosunmu, the man, the myth, the legend himself from Chicago, baby, 39 minutes, 14, 6, and 6. Torrey Craig had 10, 2, and 8 in 27 minutes. Javon Carter, 11, 1, and 2 in 18. Julian Phillips got some work too. 0 points, 3 and 3 in 14 minutes. Andre Drummond, which I don't know why this isn't being talked about. And we have a sponsor to this podcast, and we have a sponsor to this series on TikTok as well. So I'm excited about this. Our bench mobber of the night, ladies and gentlemen. If you know me, you know I'm sponsored by Bench Mob Chicago. Bench Mob Chicago is one of the best Bulls channels you will find on social media. You can check them out on benchmob.com or on Bench Mob Chicago on Instagram. They do things like game stats. They're letting you know the lineups. They're letting you know injury reports. And on top of that, Shy Slamma Jamma Dunk of the Night, which went to Patrick Williams last night. And of course, bench mobber of the night. You see a guy like Andre Drummond in 14 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. And so pardon me, correction. In 13 minutes, he had 10 and 14 with a steal and an assist. Andre Drummond in 13 minutes gave them that work. Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he didn't care. Ladies and gentlemen, he went out there and he handled business. He stood on business, and I loved it. I was here for it. I mean, it was a blast. It was an absolute blast. So to see that, and on top of that, Dalen Terry finishes off with 4 minutes and 1 rebound on the night. But I love this, man. I love this. I love what we saw from this Bulls team. I love the energy. I love the camaraderie. I loved every single part of this. And are they going to be this every single night after the inevitable departure of Zach Lavine and DeMar DeRozan? Most likely not. But to see an identity, to see them comfortable and trusting one another, I think was one of the most important things to me. Whether you believe Billy Donovan needs to be the head coach here or not, I wanted to see a team that, okay, maybe not everybody needs to be dealt. You know what I mean? Maybe we're not going into a complete reset, because that's frustrating. That when you have going into 2024, if you have a completely different roster, maybe just Dalen Terry being the only guy still on the roster, that's upsetting. That's like, all right, we got 4 to 5 years before we can even have a conversation. You know what I mean? Or an understanding of what this team could potentially be. But if you tell me that throughout the remainder of the 2023 season, we see a lot from guys like Nikola Vucevic, Patrick Williams, Kobe White, and Ayo Dosunmu, I can sit up here today confidently and say that this rebuild won't take as long as I think it's going to. Now, of course, we're still going to have to see what we get for guys like DeMar, Zach, and maybe even Caruso, which, by the way, Caruso is top 5 in the NBA right now at three-point percentage, and last night showed. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Last night showed. But with that being said, though, being real, saying to yourself, like, he's playing one of the best versions of basketball that we've ever seen him play, whether that's in LA, whether that's in college, in high school, and even with the Chicago Bulls. This is the best version of Alex Caruso we've ever seen in a basketball level. And they would be foolish not to entertain conversations for him. So I definitely think that's a possibility. Like I've talked about, I think the destinations myself, not to get too deep into that, I think DeMar DeRozan ends up a Philadelphia 76er. I think a guy like Alex Caruso is either going to the Los Angeles Lakers or the Miami Heat. And a guy like Zach Lavine is kind of a wild card, because I don't see the Lakers making a move. They lack perimeter defense, and I think that's somewhere they really want to address with a guy like Alex Caruso. I don't really see the benefit between trading a guy like Austin Reeves or Rui Hachimura for a guy like Zach Lavine. It just doesn't make sense to me. I could definitely see other moves being made. Maybe I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But nonetheless, I loved what we saw. It was fun. It was exciting. This was Bulls basketball. And the fact that I was there for it, oh my goodness. I can't remember the last time I was there for a Bulls win. I actually got a Snapchat memory the other day where that was actually really cool. I was at the game with my boy Rob, and we got to see LaMelo Ball versus Lonzo Ball back in like 2021. And what was so cool about that was, like, literally right after that happened, not that it was cool, but like right after that happened, that was when the entire Bulls and Hornets rosters got COVID. We still didn't get to see a Jello Ball out of that, and I'm still upset about it. But it was the last time those two ever faced off, and it was one of the most exciting games I think I've been a part of, and this was without a doubt the most exciting since that I've been to, and I loved it. I loved every single minute of it. If you want to check out that article, it's going to be posted within the next 24 hours on Chicago State of Mind on Substack. You can check that out on Substack app. It's free, no charge. Go on, type in Chicago State of Mind after you get on there. You can find my articles also from Al Witherspoon and obviously Brian Teague. They do amazing work over there talking about Illinois college basketball, football, DePaul basketball, everything. Chicago Sky, Cubs, White Sox, Bulls, Bears, everything else around the moon. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what the remainder of this season looks like. I'm always looking at the hindsight, though. I want to know what we're going to potentially get for a guy like Zach Lavine when it comes down to it. DeMar DeRozan, it's going to be exciting in the next probably 2 months of Bulls basketball. At least I'm excited. I'm a big trade guy. I love the draft. I love player development. And I love making trades. If my guys are watching this right now that I play fantasy football with, some people might say I make too many trades. But some good, some bad, some horrible. But it's always a blast. It's always a blast. So I'm tired of making trades in 2K. In my league, I want to see actual moves from the Chicago Bulls moving forward. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Just a shorter episode. Don't forget tomorrow night, Welcome to Mars with my brother Rob Scott, the Rob and Mike show, or the Mike and Rob show. We're going to be having a lot of fun talking NBA, WNBA, and college basketball. It's going to be an absolute blast. I appreciate you guys for listening. If you haven't already, hit that follow button. Follow us on Instagram and on TikTok at theshy.kid. Until then, next time, I'll check you guys out later. Peace.